Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. This is your time. You've spent so many years watching other people shine, comparing your journey to theirs, and wondering when your turn will come. But the truth is, your time begins the moment you decide to stop looking around and start looking within. See, life has a funny way of distracting you with what everybody else is doing. You scroll, you watch, you admire, and before you know it, you're measuring your worth by someone else's progress. But if you want to win in life, you've got to lock in on your own lane, because what's meant for you will never miss you if you stay focused on yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by telling you that focus is a decision, not a feeling. You can't wait around hoping to feel motivated every morning, because motivation fades the moment life throws you a challenge. What truly drives success is commitment, the choice to keep going when your energy runs low, when nobody's watching, and when the results don't show up as fast as you want them to. Focus is not about intensity for one day. It's about consistency every day. It's about getting up and choosing to pour into your own growth, no matter what. When you focus on yourself, you stop letting distractions dictate your destiny. You take control back from the noise, from the opinions, from the comparisons, and you put it all back where it belongs, on your purpose. See, life has a way of testing your focus. The moment you set your eyes on something bigger, the world will throw every distraction your way to see if you're serious. People will question your dreams, doubt your abilities, and tempt you to quit. But focus means holding your ground. It means keeping your eyes locked on the goal even when the path gets dark. When I was sleeping in my car, broke and unsure of what was next, I had every reason to give up, but I decided to stay focused. I didn't have the luxury of excuses. My dream didn't care about my comfort. It needed my commitment. Every day I woke up, I reminded myself, Steve, this might not be your winning day, but it's another step toward it. That's what focus looks like, believing in the destination even when the journey looks impossible. You've got to understand that the enemy of focus is comparison. The moment you start looking at what someone else is doing, you begin losing sight of what you're supposed to do. You start measuring your success with somebody else's ruler, and that's the quickest way to kill your own potential. The truth is, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes of someone else's life. You don't know the sacrifices, the struggles, or the shortcuts they took. So stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Your story is unique. Your timing is different. And the only way to see a blessing unfold is to stay focused on your lane. When you give your energy to comparison, you take it away from creation, and creation is where your breakthrough lives. Focus also requires silence. Not the kind of silence that means doing nothing, but the kind that means doing the work quietly. There's power in moving without announcing every step you take. Sometimes you've got to stop explaining and start executing. People don't need to understand your grind. They'll see it when it pays off. I learned that the loudest person in the room usually isn't the most successful. It's the most distracted. The people who win are the ones who are too busy working to talk about it. So don't post every plan, don't share every move, and don't let every opinion into your space. Protect your focus like it's gold, because it is. Once you lose it, it's hard to get back. Another part of focus is learning to say no. Every yes you give to something that doesn't serve your purpose is a no to your growth. Focused people understand that their time is their most valuable asset, and they don't spend it carelessly. There will be times when saying no hurts, when it makes you look selfish or distant, but that's part of the process. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to fulfill your potential. Every time you say no to distraction, you say yes to discipline. Every time you turn down comfort, you turn up your future. That's how focus transforms your life, one small decision at a time. And let me tell you something else. Focus will make you misunderstood. People won't get why you're distant, why you're working late, why you're no longer at every event or conversation. They might think you've changed, and that's because you have. You've changed your direction. You've changed your mindset. You've changed your priorities. That's the cost of focus, but it's also the blessing of it, because when you finally achieve what you've been working toward, those same people will call it luck, but you'll know it was focus. It wasn't luck that got you there. It was your willingness to stay the course when everyone else gave up. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember this: your focus determines your future. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can control where your attention goes. Energy flows where focus goes. If you focus on fear, you'll grow doubt. If you focus on faith, you'll grow strength. The more you center your attention on your own growth, the faster your life will shift. Every single day, ask yourself, what am I feeding my focus today? Because the seeds you water are the ones that grow. Focus on your purpose. Focus on your dream. Focus on your peace. And everything you've been chasing will start chasing you. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in life is stop explaining yourself to people who can't see your vision. You've got to understand, if not everyone will understand what you're doing, where you're going, or why you're so determined to get there. And that's okay, they're not supposed to. God didn't give them your dream, He gave it to you. The problem is, too many people waste their energy trying to convince others to believe in something that only needs their belief. The minute you spend defending your dream to someone who doesn't see it is a minute taken away from actually building it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the path you choose if that path is aligned with your purpose. Sometimes silence is the best response because silence is strength. When I first started chasing comedy, I had people who laughed at the idea that I could ever make a living off telling jokes. They told me it wasn't practical, that I should stick to something safe, something guaranteed. But I knew deep down that my gift wasn't meant to fit in someone else's box. I didn't argue with them. I didn't try to justify it. I just worked. I let my focus speak for me. Years later, when success came, those same people didn't need an explanation anymore. They could see the results. That's the beauty of moving in silence. Your work becomes your testimony. You don't have to talk when your progress does the talking. There's something peaceful about protecting your dream. When you share your vision too early or too widely, you open the door for doubt to creep in. People will question your timing, your choices, and your ability. Not because they want to harm you, but because they can't see what you see. They're operating from their own limitations. That's why it's important to build quietly. Every dream has its fragile beginning, a stage where it needs protection from negativity and distraction. Think of your dream like a seed. You wouldn't dig it up every day to show people how it's growing. You keep it in the soil, water it, and let it take root. That's what silence does. It allows your growth to mature in peace before the world sees the results. People often confuse silence with weakness, but silence is actually a strategy. The loudest person in the room rarely gets the furthest. The one who's consistent, patient, and disciplined does. When you move quietly, you eliminate pressure. You stop living for approval and start living for progress. You stop seeking validation and start finding fulfillment. There's power in being unknown for a while. You get to experiment, make mistakes, and grow without judgment. When the time is right, the world will see what you've been working on, and they'll call it sudden success, not realizing it was years of silent preparation. Another truth is that when you focus too much on explaining yourself, you lose your momentum. Every explanation is a distraction that pulls you away from action. Success doesn't come from talking. It comes from doing. You can't talk your way into your destiny. You have to work your way there. Sometimes the best response to doubt is results. The best revenge against disbelief is achievement. The best way to silence your critics is through consistency. So keep your head down and your faith high. Let your progress be your proof. And let me tell you, when you stop explaining yourself, you also start freeing yourself. You free yourself from the weight of opinions, from the fear of being misunderstood, and from the constant need for validation. You begin to live on your own terms. You start making decisions based on your purpose, not people's approval. That's where real peace comes from, knowing that you're walking the path that's meant for you, even if nobody else understands it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember one thing, let it be this: you don't need everyone to see your vision. You just need the courage to follow it. The right people will recognize your value in time, but you've got to give them something real to see. Keep moving, keep building, and keep believing. Don't waste your breath explaining your dream. Just keep chasing it until the results make the explanation unnecessary. Because at the end of the day, when your vision becomes reality, everyone who doubted you will have no choice but to respect what they once couldn't understand. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the hardest truths you'll ever face in life is that growth often feels lonely. When you start focusing on yourself, not everyone will understand. Some people will fall away. Some will think you've changed, and you have, because you're supposed to. Growth demands separation. It requires you to step away from people, places, and patterns that no longer serve who you're becoming. You can't climb higher while holding on to the same weight that kept you grounded. The path to success, healing, and peace is narrow, and not everyone who started with you can finish with you. That's not betrayal. That's evolution. You've got to be willing to outgrow the version of yourself that keeps seeking comfort in the crowd. See, when you're trying to become better, it feels uncomfortable at first. The late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices, they're not easy. You start realizing that not everyone wants what you want. Some people are okay staying the same, and that's fine for them. But if you've got a fire in your soul for something more, you can't dim it just to fit in. You've got to protect that flame. You've got to nurture it even when it means being alone. Because those quiet seasons, those lonely stretches, are where character is built. When nobody's cheering for you, you learn to cheer for yourself. When nobody believes in you, you learn to believe in yourself. And when nobody understands you, you learn that God's approval is worth more than the crowd's applause. There were times in my life when I felt isolated, like nobody understood what I was trying to do. When I was broke and chasing a dream that seemed impossible, people thought I was crazy. I had friends who stopped calling, family who doubted me, and nights when I questioned myself. But that isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. See, God sometimes pulls you away from the noise because He needs you to hear His voice clearly. You can't hear your purpose over the sound of other people's opinions. The silence isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's God saying, this is your time to focus. This is your time to grow. And when that loneliness hits, it's easy to mistake it for emptiness. But the truth is, being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. It means you're being refined. Growth separates you so you can strengthen your foundation. Think of a seed before it becomes a tree. It has to be buried in darkness. Nobody sees it. Nobody claps for it. But it's growing. It's forming roots. It's building the strength it needs to rise above the surface. That's you in your season of isolation. You might feel buried, but you're actually being planted. And when your time comes, you'll rise stronger than ever with deeper roots and unshakable focus. It's also important to understand that you don't owe everyone access to your new season. Not everyone deserves a seat at the table you built in your struggle. Some people were meant for your past, not your purpose. You've got to be bold enough to walk away from anything that makes you doubt your worth, your dream, or your peace. Sometimes growth means letting go, not out of anger, but out of awareness. You can love people from a distance and still move forward. Don't let guilt keep you tied to where you no longer belong. The people who are truly meant for you will understand your journey, and the ones who don't were never meant to go that far with you. And when you finally start walking alone, something powerful happens. Clarity. You start seeing who you are and what you're capable of. You stop looking for approval because you've learned how to validate yourself. You stop needing company because you've discovered contentment in your own presence. That's the gift of solitude. It shows you your strength. It shows you your purpose. It shows you that you don't need a crowd to become great. You just need commitment. So if you find yourself walking alone right now, don't be discouraged. Don't think it's a setback. Think of it as training for the next level of your life. The people who are meant to walk with you will meet you there. But until then, keep your focus, protect your peace, and keep moving forward. Because the moment you stop fearing loneliness, you start stepping into your power. And that's when the world begins to notice, not because you chased approval, but because you became undeniable. Ladies and gentlemen, discipline is the bridge between your dreams and your reality. You can want success all you like, but wanting it isn't enough. You've got to work for it when nobody's clapping, when nobody's posting about it, and when nobody's telling you you're doing a good job. Discipline is what keeps you going after motivation fades. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep in, practicing your craft when nobody's watching, studying your field while others are distracted, and staying committed even when you don't feel like it. Every great achievement in history was built on the foundation of discipline. Talent can open the door, but only discipline can keep it open. It's not the flash or the fame that separates winners from quitters. It's the daily decision to keep showing up, no matter how hard it gets. When I was chasing my dream, I didn't have the luxury of comfort. There were nights I slept in my car, mornings I didn't know where my next meal would come from, but I still got up and did the work. That wasn't motivation, that was discipline. Motivation is temporary. It burns out when life gets tough. But discipline, that's a muscle you build. It doesn't care how you feel, it only cares what you do. You can't wait for the perfect time, the perfect mood, or the perfect opportunity. You've got to move when it's hard. You've got to act when it's inconvenient. Because the truth is, the most successful people in the world aren't the most gifted. They're the most disciplined. You've got to learn to tell yourself, no, sometimes. No to distractions, no to excuses, no to the easy way out. Every time you say yes to comfort, you say no to growth. Discipline means understanding that progress often requires sacrifice. You can't watch TV all night and expect to wake up successful. You can't scroll through social media for hours and expect your dreams to come to life. You can't party every weekend and expect your purpose to unfold. Discipline means trading temporary pleasure for long-term purpose. It means doing what's necessary now so you can do what you want later. People see the success, but they don't see the struggle. They see the results, but they don't see the repetition. The truth is, the quiet work you do behind the scenes is what determines the spotlight moment everyone sees. There will be times when discipline feels lonely. You'll look around and realize that while others are relaxing, you're grinding. While they're playing, you're planning. While they're sleeping, you're studying. But that's the price of greatness. The people who live extraordinary lives Do the things ordinary people won't. Discipline doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means you don't give up when it gets hard. You keep going. You keep believing. You keep investing in yourself because you understand that the reward is worth the effort. The grind may not give you instant results, but it will always give you progress. And progress, no matter how small, is what creates momentum. There's also another side to discipline, self-control. You've got to control your emotions, your impulses, and your environment. You can't let anger, fear, or laziness dictate your actions. Discipline is learning to act from purpose, not emotion. It's the ability to stay calm in chaos and consistent in crisis. Life will test your patience, tempt your limits, and try to break your focus. But discipline is what keeps you centered. It reminds you of why you started when you feel like quitting. Every setback becomes a setup when you respond with discipline instead of defeat. You may not be able to control everything around you, but you can always control how you respond. And let me tell you, God rewards discipline. He sees your effort. He sees your late nights, your sacrifices, and your faith. You might not see the results right now, but that doesn't mean your work is wasted. Every small step you take is building something bigger than you can see. Success doesn't happen all at once. It happens one disciplined day at a time. The dream you have will demand consistency before it delivers completion. That's how blessings work. They come to those who are ready, not those who are just wishing. So remember, this discipline is not punishment, it's preparation. Every moment you choose structure over chaos, consistency over comfort, and purpose over pleasure, you're getting closer to your breakthrough. You can pray for success all day long, but if your habits don't match your prayers, your results never will. Stay consistent, stay committed, and trust that every disciplined day is a brick in the foundation of your destiny. Because one day, all that quiet work will speak louder than words ever could, and the world will finally see what you were building all along. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest mistakes people make in life is comparing their journey to someone else's. We live in a world where everybody's highlight reel is on display. You open your phone and see people traveling, succeeding, smiling, and winning, and suddenly you start to question your own progress. But what you have to understand is that comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your peace, and your focus. You begin to doubt yourself, thinking you're high or not good enough, when in reality, you're right where you're supposed to be. Your journey was never meant to look like anybody else's. The timing your breakthrough is designed perfectly for you. So stop looking around and start looking within. Because when you focus on what you have instead of what you lack, your whole life begins to shift. I've seen so many people give up on their dreams because they thought they were late. They thought success should have come sooner. And let me tell you something, there's no such thing as being late when you're walking in your purpose. Some people reach their destination in their 20s. Others in their 40s or 50s. That doesn't make one better than the other. It just means their paths are different. When I was struggling early in my career, I watched others make it before me, and I used to wonder why it wasn't happening for me yet. But what I didn't realize was that God was preparing me. He was shaping my character, strengthening my faith, and teaching me lessons that success couldn't teach. You've got to trust the process, even when it's taken longer than you expected, because sometimes the delay is the very thing that's building your destiny. The danger of comparison is that it blinds you to your own blessings. You could be making real progress, but because it doesn't look like someone else's, you think it's not enough. You could be growing, healing, and improving, but if you keep comparing, you'll convince yourself you're standing still. The truth is, everybody's story has a different rhythm. You might be in your building season while someone else is in their blooming season. Don't confuse your chapter 1 with their chapter 20. Every tree grows at its own pace, and the fruit that takes longer to ripen usually lasts longer when it does. That's how your success will be built on patience, built on persistence, built to last. It's also important to remember that what you see in others is never the full story. Social media shows the shine, not the struggle. It shows the outcome, not the obstacles. You might see someone smiling today, but you didn't see the nights they cried. You might see their victory, but not the battles it took to get there. So why compare your behind the scenes to someone else's final edit? You have no idea what they went through to reach that point, and you have no idea what God is sparing you from right now. You don't need to rush to match anyone else's timeline. You just need to stay faithful to yours. When you stop comparing, something powerful happens. You start to appreciate your own growth. You start noticing how far you've come. Instead of how far you have to go, you begin to celebrate small wins because you understand that progress is progress, no matter how slow it feels. You start seeing others as competition and start seeing them as inspiration. You realize that someone else's success doesn't take away from yours. It proves what's possible. And that's when real peace enters your life. Because peace doesn't come from being ahead of others. It comes from being aligned with your purpose. There's freedom in walking your own path with confidence. You start trusting your timing, believing in your process, and respecting your own pace. You stop chasing validation because you know your worth isn't tied to comparison. You realize that what's meant for you won't miss you. Not by a day, not by an hour, not by a moment. Life is not a race, it's a journey of becoming. You are growing at the speed you're supposed to. Every step you take, even the small ones, are getting you closer to where you're meant to be. So don't measure your life by anyone else's ruler. Keep your eyes on your lane, your purpose, and your progress. Celebrate others without doubting yourself. And remember, the only competition worth having is with the person you were yesterday. As long as you're growing, learning, and moving forward, you're winning. Your story is still being written, and when the time is right, it's going to be everything you dreamed of, not because it came early, but because it came exactly when you were ready for it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your moment to choose yourself. Not out of pride, not out of selfishness, but out of purpose. For too long, you've given your energy to everything and everyone but you. You've been showing up for people who don't always show up for you, pouring into others while leaving yourself empty, waiting for someone to tell you it's your turn. But let me tell you something. This is your time. This is the season to pour back into your own cup, to heal.